Hello and welcome to Hallam News with me, Ruby Furby. Our top stories today. Out in the cold, we look at the homeless crisis in the wake of the pandemic. And Give a Dog a Home, how pet ownership is soaring for man's best friends.
From around the world, around the nation, and around the corner. Live. 24 hours a day.
All that and more, but for now, over to the news desk with Ellie Houghton.
Thanks, Ruby. For the second month in a row, the number of deaths from COVID-19 has gone up in England and Wales, though it's still far less than the peak in April and May. Figures from the Office for National Statistics show the virus was the third most common cause of mortality in October. There were just under 3,400 coronavirus-related deaths that month, 7.8% of the overall number. The Defence Secretary says a decision on the coronavirus lockdown over Christmas could be made over the next few days. Some MPs have reacted angrily to reports that there could be more restrictions in January to allow for an easing over the festive period. Ben Wallace says they need to look at whether lockdowns have been working before announcing any plans.
If I sat here now and made a prediction about what would happen in the middle of December, it would be highly likely that we would get it wrong or we wouldn't be as able to cope as possible.
More than 2,000 people have been arrested during a week-long crackdown on knife crime. Around 10,000 knives were seized by the 43 police forces in England and Wales which took part in Operation Sceptre. Officers took part in weapon sweeps and amnesties and also targeted stop and search to try and tackle the issue. The Prime Minister is announcing the biggest increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War. £16.5 billion will be made available to modernise forces and invest in areas like space and artificial intelligence. Lord Dannatt is the former head of the British Army. He says the funding is welcome.
It won't answer all the questions, but it'll certainly allow the defence chiefs to make some more informed decisions as the Integrated Defence Review is rolled out. And it will enhance our defence capability. It's the kind of additional money that many of us have been calling for the last 3 to 5 years.
And that's it from the news desk for now.
Our main story today. There are fears that homelessness in the UK is on the rise in the wake of the pandemic. 150 people were living on the streets in Sheffield last winter, but the charity Shelter fears homelessness could double or even treble. I went out to find more.
Me, darling? Just waiting for us. Want a bottle of water in the meantime?
Charities in Sheffield are working hard to keep the homeless safe and fed in the coming winter months. Across England, 98,300 homeless households were living in temporary accommodation at the end of June, an unprecedented rise of 7%. Charities warn that this will likely rise again as the economic effects of a second national lockdown come into play. The chair of the Sunday Centre, Steve Clark, says that the pandemic restrictions have changed their food services to a simple takeaway.
Food's on its way.
What hurts me at the moment is we're feeding people on the doorstep because that's all that COVID will allow us to do. I can't have 60 people sat down in a COVID secure way, and that's not dignified. Giving food out on the doorstep is not a dignified way to treat people.
Before lockdown, the Sunday Centre provided a 2-course hot meal, a warm place of refuge and a chance to socialise for all of their guests. They are a non-profit organisation in Sheffield that is run by volunteers. Laura Howson is a trustee of the centre and is happy to be helping those in need.
It's just somewhere for them to come on a Sunday afternoon that they feel safe and warm and in company. Some of them tell us that it's the highlight of their week, which is quite sad really when you think about it.
Maggie, who has been coming to the centre on and off for 12 years, thinks there's something missing in terms of long-term help and funding.
I think it would be fantastic if they could offer counselling services maybe, more activities, better funded activities. Because they're just making do with scraps, basically, Scrappy card games, scrappy snakes and ladders, scrappy everything. Why should people make do with scraps?
Will has visited the Sunday Centre every week for 2 years and feels as though coronavirus has somewhat limited his support.
The problem is, with this virus, it's closed a lot of places down. They're run by elderly people. But Sheffield has got good facilities for places like this. Every day you can go somewhere and get a meal and see people and chat.
In the past few years, there has been an increase in drug and alcohol abuse on the streets, which Maggie says is a coping mechanism for many.
There's drugs on the streets, there's alcohol, there's unemployment, there's childhood traumas, there's so many reasons why people end up on the streets and turning to drugs for relief.
Steve Clark feels that the homeless are stereotyped and therefore judged for their circumstances.
It's just that people are poor. They haven't got enough money to live on. I think what I get angry about is blame. A lot of assumptions as to why people have ended up in the circumstances they're in.
Sheffield Council have 800 supported accommodation beds in the city. So far, they have placed 50 rough sleepers into accommodation since the COVID-19 outbreak began and given them mobile phones to stay connected while social distancing. They are urging people not to give money to those who ask. Instead, they suggest people offer them a helpline number and assist them to their nearest shelter.
Take care of yourself, people.
Thousands of people have been laid off as pubs and clubs around Sheffield are forced to close again. The second lockdown is hitting the hospitality trade pubs much harder this time round, with more businesses struggling financially. Abby Gascoigne has the story.
COVID-19 has hit a lot of businesses hard this year with 2 lockdowns and tier restrictions. Among the worst affected has been the pubs and restaurants. The Anvil pub in Stannington is run by Morgan Knifeton and Luke Willman.
They're all like family. Everyone who comes in on a day-to-day basis, we know all the faces. We know them all like we know them as friends. We speak to them, we sit down and we share a drink with them sometimes. So some of them literally have us to go to. That's it. They don't have any family, so...
Well, it's hard with Anvil being shut, just for the simple fact is we're still having to pay bills and that, and if there's no money coming in, it's a bit hard to keep the pubs open.
In a recent survey, trade organisation Hospitality UK claimed that 250,000 jobs will be lost without further government support. With the Tier 3 restrictions before lockdown, it was estimated that up to 1,000 pubs and bars across South Yorkshire, 400 of them in Sheffield, closed. Emily Johnson is one of the many bar workers left out of pocket.
Just really struggling at the moment, obviously, because I'm on furlough, so I'm not getting a full pay. I miss my colleagues. We're all really struggling at the moment. It's just a really tough time.
The prediction is that a quarter of hospitality businesses will close by the end of 2020, and over half are now expected to fail before the end of 2021. If staff and customers cannot return, this has an impact on communities and people who rely on their locals.
Because of lockdown, we're obviously missing socialising in Anvil, because obviously you get to see your friends. Obviously, if you live alone and stuff, it's not easy.
That's where everybody goes to get together, and we're not seeing people at the moment due to them being closed.
I miss it terribly. I fear for local pubs, especially in my area.
Around 50,000 people have died in the UK so far during the pandemic. Government restrictions are aimed at cutting infection rates and saving lives, but publicans are concerned that restrictions will kill their businesses. With no trade, they wonder how they will keep their businesses afloat, especially during the winter period.
It's a bit financial burden really, with it not generating any money, but we're still having to pay bills out, and plus rent, plus Sky, plus all that lot. So, and it kind of missed customers sometimes, but I just hope they're all doing all right. We keep checking on them every now and again. That's it.
It's been a very difficult year for the hospitality industry, but with the government restrictions set to ease on the 2nd of December, many will hope for a return to business as usual in the run-up to Christmas.
Now, over to the sports desk with James Bird.
Thanks, Ruby. England finished their Nations League campaign with a comfortable 4-0 victory against Iceland. Phil Foden scored a brace, with Mason Mount and Declan Rice also finding the back of the net for Gareth Southgate's team. With all the goal-getters under the age of 22, the England boss says that the future is very exciting.
The reality is that a lot of the squad we've had over the last 3 months are going to peak in 3-5 years' times, but we think it's worth investing the time in them, and they're learning a lot from some very good senior professionals as well.
Meanwhile, Wales have clinched promotion to the top flight of the Nations League. They won their group with a 3-1 victory over 10-man Finland at Cardiff. Harry Wilson, Daniel James and Kiefer Moore got the goals. The government is considering the return of spectators to sporting events before Christmas. It's reported fans may be able to attend matches where coronavirus infection rates are low. There's no detail yet, with plans still being drawn up on what will happen in England when lockdown ends on the 2nd of December. 3 South African cricketers are in isolation after one tested positive ahead of their limited overs games with England. The first of 3 2020 matches will be played next Friday. England flew to Cape Town on Tuesday after all their players tested negative, but they still have to quarantine for 10 days before the games. That's it from the sports desk for now.
Speaking of entertainment, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here started on Sunday in the new shooting location of Wales. There are divided opinions on the new setup as the coronavirus pandemic has forced the show to change. Now, the public are debating whether the show should stay in Wales or return to Down Under. What do you think, Abby?
Well, I've watched I'm a Celebrity for years. I do obviously love it when it's in Australia, but I am really liking it in Wales, and I think I would prefer to do it in Wales. I think they're just trying to make the best decision out of a bad situation.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The only thing with Australia is that you get like random snakes and stuff when you're half asleep, and I feel like anything that they put in that castle, the worst thing they're going to come across is a spider, and anything worse than that, I just wouldn't believe. Like, I just would think that someone's planted it there, whereas in Australia you genuinely think like you're literally sleeping outside, like in the middle of a jungle. I just think that's so much better. That's the whole point. And like they've got the whole like beginning being in a jungle. It's just not the same. I don't think.
It's not. I think we all knew it wasn't going to be the same. I mean, I think I've only watched a couple of episodes, but I think they've done it well.
I do, yeah.
They've took, a bad situation and done it. They've still got the same like challenges, the same bush tucker trials.
Have they though?
They're not calling it bush tucker this year.
Have they? It all just seems a bit like, I don't know, it seems easier this year, not gonna lie. I feel like they've tried to pick it up and put it somewhere else, because like the challenge that they did the other day, like the snakes and stuff, I'm not being funny, there's no snakes in Wales. Like, they've brought them in. It feels forced. I don't like it as much, to be honest.
I mean, I didn't watch it that much anyway because I hate watching advert breaks. So if I didn't make the effort to watch it when it was in Australia, I'm not making as much effort to watch it in Wales.
Yeah, what do you think, James?
Well, if you ask me, I think it's a bit of a mixed review. It's a mixed bag, isn't it? And you've really got to look at it because the viewing membership, it's the highest it's ever been viewed. It's broke records.
That's because everyone's inside.
It's because everyone can't go anywhere else.
Do you think that though, or do you think it's just something new, something intriguing?
I think they'll get a drop in views next year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially if they keep it in Wales. No one's going to watch it.
Oh.
I think it's interesting this year because it's new.
Oh well, have you heard that apparently, similar to Love Island, how they did it in the summer and then they had a winter one?
Yeah.
Apparently that's what they could do this year, but I don't think the timing. Exactly, you look forward to it every year, don't you? And the thing is, I generally think, who are these new two that come in? Who knows them?
Who knows them? Honestly, it gets worse every year because I don't know anyone.
I generally think
Shane Ritchie. Sorry, I love him. Alfie Moon.
MBE. To be fair though, I think they've brought them two in because they're a bit drama, a bit like they want to cause a bit of trouble.
I think they're going to cause a bit of trouble.
I do hope so.
Drama queens, aren't they?
But I'm saying the series is being carried by Mo Farah, Jordan, and Vernon Kay. They are carrying.
I love him.
I'm just saying, I think it would be very different. I'm just saying, heat makes you angry. I don't think there's going to be as many arguments because it's in Wales this time. People are cold. I feel like there's going to be more like sad.
And also, I feel like people are more used to the UK weather because we live here.
They're used to it.
And when you're out in Wales, when you're out in Australia, it's something completely different.
Yeah.
Like, I would be scared to go to bed at night in Australia.
Exactly. And not being funny, where have they put the families? Like, I would want that luxury hotel in Australia, getting a tab.
And also, Kiosk Cledwin. I don't want Cledwin. I want Kev back. Or was he the one done for sexual assault? Yeah, he was the one. My bad. I put that one out there.
Well, I think it's fair to say that there's a very mixed bag of opinions here, isn't there?
Let's just see what happens.
Thank you to all our reporters here at Hallam News. That's it from us. Until next time.
From around the world, around the nation, and around the corner. Live. 24 hours a day.